Hello, Shannon here. I gave you a couple, 2, 3 days to bite off my Esau Jacob video in Israel, and I'm hoping that plenty of you watched that video before we get started tonight, or day for some of you watching this during the daytime. I've had a lot of allergies with my eyes, so if you see tears, I'm not crying. It's my eyes are watering because I'm deathly allergic to the tree pollen outside. If you saw the title, I thought my husband's wife was dead. That's the name of the movie that I'm going to break down. I don't like lots of long introductions, so I like to just get right into the video. I get nervous. I don't want to trip over my words or leave anything out, so I'm hoping that you guys are okay with me starting in on the material as soon as possible. So with that being said, I thought my husband's wife was dead. In this movie, there are three main characters that I'm going to be focusing on. There are a couple of other characters, but we're not going to focus on them, but just for a minute. There is a character playing Adam. His name is Leo. He's the husband. There is a character playing Hava's part. Her name is Victoria. And there is a character playing the serpent, and her name is Kayla. These two wives married to the same man. Now, if that sounds familiar to you, that's also Jacob, who is married to both Leah and Rachel, and they represent the same thing. And I'm showing you this pattern so that later you can see this pattern in everything that you watch, be it movies, and it can be two men playing the women's part. The outside doesn't matter. It's the inside that we're going to look at. Everything that I break down, it's from the spiritual. I use the physical to explain the spiritual, but let me just reiterate what I've said over and over and over again. The Jew represents the older brother, Leah, Adam. It's a representation. Not all Jews have the spirit that I'm showing within them. That's just the stereotype. The Christian represents the second wife, or the one like Hava, but that doesn't mean all Christians are Hava or Rachel or have that spirit. They just represent that in the Bible because one is the older brother. That's the first part of the book that represents the flesh and the rules of the flesh, the rules and regulations that give you a knowledge of good and evil. And then the Christian represents the spiritual, which is based on grace and love. So I'm showing you another way to look at this so that we can all realize that the Bible is for everybody and it's relevant for today. The patterns are real and they're reoccurring in many stories everywhere that we watch. It's God's way of telling us his story over and over and over till someone sees and explains, which is what I am doing. If you see something like that, it's too glorious to not explain and give, but let me tell you, the spiritual battle of trying to get it out and help people understand what I'm saying has been a real battle. I'm an overcomer, just like Jacob, so it's going to keep coming until I get it right. And so bear with me until I get it out right. And I am humble. I don't think I'm better than anyone. I just want to get the information out, and I want to be understood, because this is for God's people. This is for a deeper understanding of his word. This is an understanding of how magnificent our God is, so that we can all get on one page and live together as God's people. So with that being said, I want to talk about the title. I thought my husband's wife was dead. Now, I want you to picture this as one person with two spirits on each shoulder, the Adam being our flesh, whatever flesh is walking, the two wives representing the two spirits. The movie is also about two literal wives. This is just, I'm breaking it down with one person as well as two, because it branches out, and then it branches out into the world with two kinds of people. And so I want to show you how everything in the garden is broken down in this movie through these characters. And there are sowed level interpretations that I'm going to go over, and sowed of sowed. You have to know the keys to understanding that level, and I'm going to give you some of that today. It's not hard once you get the hang of things, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to drink water. I've been really thirsty and dehydrated, so I'm going to have to drink during this video today occasionally. Um, it's not hard. You know, the whole book, the Bible, is about sacrifices and offerings. Okay, we're supposed to offer ourselves, sacrifice ourselves, and cover others. Sacrifices and coverings, offerings, coverings. Covering being the key word, which goes along with love and grace. Okay, God said, I desired mercy, not sacrifice. What he's saying is, he lives in his people. And when his people are sacrificed rather than covered, God is also being sacrificed rather than covered. The only one that's supposed to be sacrificed is the one that's operating in the spirit of the enemy. So I'm going to show you that through this movie. When the second wife, Layla, says, I thought my husband's wife was dead. First of all, a husband is a husband to the one that he's laying his life down to. So he's literally, really the husband to Layla, the second wife. Layla, I'm going to go over the meanings of these names. Leo is really a spinoff of Judah, and it means to praise or give thanks or to be praised. Victoria, which was the first wife who everyone thought was dead, her name, she's presumed to be gone for 5 years, 5 being the number for grace, but also for transformation if you're looking at it through astrology definition. And just remember that when we give grace, we transform. We transform ourselves and the one we're giving grace to. It also causes change. And 5 also represents change. My life path is a 5. On the 6th day, we're supposed to collect a double portion of manna. And so, you know, Victoria is the one that's missing. She's presumed dead for 5 years. So when she makes herself known, she is entering the 6th year, and that's the year that she's going to be collecting the other portion of the double portion blessing. And I'm going to get into that. I want to go over the names. Victoria means victorious. Tori means good or pleasant. Rhea means bitter. And, you know, just like Jacob has a duality meaning, surplanter, but he also has all the other good meanings to his name as well. We all have a good and a bad name. My last name, Nace, means nose, but it also means angry. And so names can be the dark and the light, both. And I'm going to show you both in these characters. Where was I? I'm trying to see this, and it's kind of dark where I'm looking. I'm looking at my notes and trying to be visible to you too. So forgive me for taking just a few minutes to look at this and get this right. So Victoria is playing the part of Hava. She's the wife that's been missing for 5 years, 5 being the number of grace. I believe in this movie that her disappearance, she's kidnapped and abused and drugged and beaten by the husband, Leo. Spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the movie and you don't want it to be spoiled, you probably need to shut it off now and come back later. But the husband is the one that kidnaps her and takes her in the middle, to the middle of the forest, which made me think in the midst of the garden, and has her bound and drugged up, and he's beating her and just doing all kinds of stuff to her, which for the five being the number of grace, that's how many days or how many years, 5,000 years of abuse that the one giving grace is going to go under. You can't give grace unless grace is needed, which means you might have been abused. Now, we also sometimes think we're being abused when we're not. We're still supposed to give that grace and cover and not blame others for the things that they've done to us. It's called not persecuting others for transgressions, which during that time where grace is being given, and there's going to be an age where there's an end to grace, no more grace is given. I believe that we are already at that door in our times today. Look at Trump. No more grace given to the other countries. It's a big boom, because now it's time for everybody to be able to not just give but also receive. It's It's the balancing out of who's the giver and who's the receiver. In the United States has been the giver. Now, leadership has taken, yes, from their own people as well as other people. So I mean, all of that has to be worked out, and I don't want to get into the politics of things, but this is why things look the way they look, because we are in the era of the end of grace. And this movie is speaking of that as well. Victoria representing those like Hava, who are coming back to get the other portion. Well, she chose the portion of the spiritual. The double portion is the physical and the spiritual. You choose to serve God first by abiding by the spiritual law, then you will be given the physical as well in the end. Those who choose the physical first will not get either. And you'll see in this movie how that plays out. So, Victoria's last name is Knight. Layla means night, as well as her last name being Night, as in Nighty Night. She plays the part of the serpent. Now, Layla's character is, she wants everything to look the part. She wears white. She wants to look righteous. She makes her restaurant, the restaurant which has actually the first wife's recipes in it without the flavor, which represents the love that was put in that food when Victoria was the one making those recipes for Leo when she was the wife. But Layla buys all the most expensive things to decorate to have a 5-star restaurant, but she's actually a 1-star because the food tastes terrible. It tastes like dirty feet. And I find that funny because your feet are on the dirt, and the dirt represents Adam, the fleshly nature. And that's what the food tastes like, the fleshly nature, the fleshly rules and regulations, which give you a knowledge of good and evil. But she's basing good on how things look and not how they really are. Back to I thought my husband's wife was dead. The husband's the one that's laying it down for the wife. Well, he's not laying it down for the one he's abusing. He's laying it down for the one who's told him that he can abuse her and eventually tells him to kill her, and that's Layla, the second wife, who represents the serpent. Now, if you think about this within ourselves, we have one spirit that's coming at the other through our flesh, telling us we're no good, we're this, we're that, and not to do what the other spirit wants you to do. And in that, this spirit is being killed and died off, because God's spirit is laying it down for the flesh. The flesh is the ruling. Until the flesh listens to God's spirit, the spirit has to do whatever the flesh decides, because the flesh is the only one that can do it. So in this movie, Hava is Victoria, the wife who's been taken captive and is being abused and used by whatever she does. That's persecution towards everybody. We point our finger. You're wicked. You've stolen. You've slept with someone else's wife. You're this, you're that. That's persecution for transgressions. And the only transgression that we are really allowed to consume and devour at an appointed time are those who do not love. That is the only transgression that we are allowed to consume and devour each other over, because that's the one that says whether you're God's people or not. If you walk in love, you have God, because you can't love without the Spirit of God within you. If you're not walking in love, you don't have God. So my husband, Layla's saying that because he's laying it down for what she wants. He's doing what the enemy wants. I thought my husband's wife was dead. Well, she's calling the other woman, the one playing Hava, Victoria, his wife. Why? Well, because the wife is supposed to respect the husband. And in the garden, when Hava said, yep, I did it, the serpent deceived me, she's saying, I believed, I did it, it was my fault. She's respecting the husband, therefore she's the real wife. Layla, through the movie, is blaming the husband constantly for everything, just like the enemy does to us, just like the enemy outside of us does to us when they're looking at us, looking for something to point out, rather than keeping their own fingers on themselves. So in this movie, you have this going on. And Layla, at one point in the movie, says she doesn't do fat or broke. Fat is a covering. Leo likes junk food, but he goes to the gym to work off the fat. The fat equals the covering. That is a soul level understanding of what the word fat means. Anytime you see it in the Bible, anytime you see it in the movies, the deeper meaning is a covering, just like hair, shoes, skin. There's all kinds of things that represent coverings. Makeup. And makeup and hair are actually used in this movie, symbolic of coverings. And that's a soul level interpretation. That's the deeper God's key to his language of sacrifices and coverings. So Leo likes junk food. Well, if we think about what food is spiritually, you're either eating from the bread of life or from the bread of death. And Leo likes junk food. That would be the bread that causes death. It's the water that never quenches your thirst. So that's how you can break that down in the movie. I'm converting everything physical to what it represents spiritual. And actually it should be up here rather than down here. The physical is down here. The spiritual is on a higher plane. And both are going on at the same time. But you have to have eyes to see it, and that's what I'm doing. I'm showing it to you. Because I truly can see these things. And I'm hoping that by this video you're going to understand that I really am seeing these things and what these things should say to you. They should jump out at you once you have a good, clear understanding of what you're looking at. Let's see, where was I? Oh, Layla and everything that she represents. So she wears white. She's all about the physical. She's the way things look and not the way things really are. What else can I say about her? We'll go on to Victoria. Let me look first on Layla and make sure I didn't forget anything. Look, picture perfect. Oh, she doesn't work, and she spends all of Leo's money on the most expensive things. Okay, so I covered that. Okay, the first, Victoria's kidnapped while on a run and taken deep in the forest and held captive, tied up, drugged up, beaten and abused for years, and then taken and shot and left for dead. Now, Leo eventually, the wife tells him that he needs to kill her. So he takes her out, pulls out a gun, and shoots her. He thinks she's dead, but the people in the forest come and they heal her back to health. So it's a picture of resurrection when she comes back. And that resurrection could very well be after the 5th day. Let's see, burial, then resurrection. I'm not going to go over those numbers right now. I'm just thinking in my head real quick on the patterns. Anyway, so on the 6th day, we're supposed to collect a double portion of manna. Manna being the bread of life spiritually. It's not something physical. It's described as the dew, the spiritual. And so when Victoria finally gets out of her mess and heals, she goes straight to Leo's house. She rings the bell, and Layla's pregnant, and she's not expecting her at the door. Her hair is a mess. She's wearing a cap. She looks like she's been in prison, and she looks like a hot disaster. She's turned away. She tells her that she needs to speak with Leo. Of course, Leo doesn't know she's alive yet. They're living in a big fancy house. They've cashed in life insurance policies. They have a restaurant that was based on Victoria's dream, not Layla's dream. Only it's a sick rendition of what her dream was, because the food tastes really bad. Because it's made from the water that never quenches any thirst. Let's see. Oh, and when the wife asks her, when Layla asks her, didn't you go to the police? She says, I tried to go to the police, but they didn't believe me. They thought I was just a druggie. Well, when I see the police in a movie, it automatically makes me think of the head of religion. There are good heads and there are bad. There are those who operate on the law of love. There are those who operate on the rules and regulations, which they don't keep. They look like they are presenting themselves in a holy way, but they really are not. They're just there for the status, for the money, and that's it. And so this often happens when we go and we talk to somebody about what's happened to us, and we are trying to get sympathy or get relief from traumatic experiences, and people turn it on you and say it was your fault because you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, when you truly were abused, used. Could be a narcissist. In this case, Leo is a narcissist. It's always somebody else's fault. Well, it's not really in this case, because he's not doing that to the wife that's playing the serpent. He's become one with the serpent. So if you see them as one, yes. Okay, most narcissists do this to every woman they come across or every man they come across. It's not just one. So, and narcissist is used too freely, really, because not everybody has all of those things in them. Anyway, once she's turned away, she goes to find a job because she has no money, she has nothing. She finds herself walking into a beauty salon. Now, this is where the soul level of what coverings are enters the picture. Her hair is a hot mess. She meets a woman named Karen. She's a beautician. Her name means clean, clear, pure, and dark. Because again, there is a light and dark in all of us. There is a positive and a negative connotation in each and every one of us for a reason, because we are all of both. And so it's just going to depend on which part of that name you're going to live up to. Tori tells her, she says that she's looking for somebody and she just needs her to fill out an application, and Tori tells her that she can't use her social security number or he'll find her. And basically, in so many words, she's telling her that she's been abused and she doesn't want to be found. And so Karen offers her a job. She gives her a hug, and when she sits her down to clean her up a bit, she gives her a room, she notices how severely bad her hair is. Her hair is just, she has to cut it all off. We know the bald woman in the Bible. And she gives her a wig until hers grows out. Well, hair represents a covering. Now, if you've been beaten by somebody's judgment, their verbal abuse, pointing fingers and lashing out at you for any and everything that you've ever done wrong, because, you know, Jacob is trying to overcome the fleshly nature. That's all of us who are walking in this life. We have circumstances, we have situations that we're in, and we will fall, but we are to get back up again. Everybody falls, but only Jacob gets back up again. His heart is right. He's trying to figure things out and get right. So she's been persecuted, she's been abused, and not given a covering. That's all of God's people. We haven't been given the covering. We've had fingers pointed at us like Adam in the garden. It was this woman you gave me. Blaming those like Hava, instead of taking the responsibility for their own evil doing and not having an evil eye while looking at everybody else. If we want to be covered, we must cover. So her hair's a mess, and Karen sits down, cuts her hair, and gives her a wig to cover her, basically. And so that's one soul level thing to look at when you're looking at scripture. Hair is just like Samson's hair. Physically was cut off and he lost his power, where spiritually, if your hair is cut off, it's not just cut off by another. It can also be symbolic of you cutting your own hair off by blaming someone else. Samson lost the favor of God. I don't believe it was because of what Delilah did. When you blame someone else, you lose your covering. Now, I haven't broken that story down, so I'll have to go back. I need to look up names and see what everything means before I come to a conclusion about that story. But I do know that there was a study done on the Indians and their hair physically. When they had long hair, they knew where the enemy was. They had good intuition, and they could tell where the enemy was, but when they were required to cut their hair off, they lost that power because the hair is the extension of the nervous system. So, yes, it's true physically, but spiritually, it's also talking about our covering as far as if we give a covering, we have a covering. If we don't give a covering, then we literally don't have a covering. Now, in the garden, Hava gave the covering to Adam by saying, the serpent deceived me. She's saying, I believe. She's not blaming flesh and God. She's exposing the enemy, the serpent, hiding in Adam, as well as herself. So she is basically reiterating what is written. We're not fighting principalities and powers, we're fighting principalities and powers, not flesh and blood or God. So she's stating the truth, and God said he's not a man, Adam, that he should lie. Adam spoke a lie when he blames flesh and God for what happened. And he's got an evil eye. He's speaking Lashon Hara. He's not just done one thing, but in the whole of it, he's not keeping the first commandment. Okay, so Layla comes and, let me see. Where am I here? I can't see because there's not very good light in here. Okay, I talked about coverings. Okay, the next scene is Layla coming into the barbershop where Victoria has been hired to run errands and do sweeping and stuff like that in the shop, and she's got a room in the back. And she comes in to get a nail fixed, and she ends up needing to go to the hospital for her pregnancy. She's having a difficult labor. She's lost 2 children. This is her 3rd pregnancy that she's hoping is going to make it. Tori comes out. Layla realizes that she's working there, and she's the one that's going to take her to the hospital. She's nice to Layla. Now keep in mind, in the movie it does not insinuate till the end that she knows that Layla put Leo up to every rotten thing that he did to her. She knows this. But she is withholding her finger pointing and her persecuting, and you'll see that later in the movie as well. She takes her, she's nice to her. Tori explains that she also lost a baby once. Layla said she lost 2 babies. So Tori explains that Leo's all she has. Her parents are dead. She gets Layla tucked in for bed, rest at home, and gets her water, and Layla is asleep, so Tori snoops. I'm just reading my notes. I'm going through this movie, and I'm trying to get there as quick as I can. I don't want to miss anything. Layla's going through her closets, and she puts on her white clothes. She's wearing stuff that's just, she's been in for a while, and she puts it in the washer and dryer, and she puts clothes on. She didn't think that Layla needed to be alone while she's recovering from difficulties in her pregnancy. She takes her water, but she's asleep, and what she finds when she snoops is a gun in the drawer, and she picks that gun up, and she points it at Layla, but she quickly puts it back. Now that's when we decide that we're not going to persecute others for transgressions, that we're going to forgive, we're going to live, and we're going to do things God's way, even if we don't want to. She takes it and she points it. Okay, I got that part. She chooses not to shoot, which is symbolic of not persecuting. She does, however, change Layla's white clothing and washes. Okay, I already discussed that. Oh, and she also takes the baby's teddy bear from the baby's room, and it's symbolic of comfort, childhood innocence, and security and love. Just remember, Victoria hasn't had love. She's been in this marriage where her husband abused her, used her, and then left her for dead. Basically, that's what all of God's children feel. I have felt that. I know of a lot of people that have felt very alone. People turning their back, laughing at you, and telling you that you're crazy when you try to share the gifts that God has given you, thinking that you're full of beans, your family, your friends. It's not a good feeling. You feel beat up mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and it's what the enemy wanted. And they don't know that the enemy is using them to do that to God's people. Not just me, to many people out there. There's lots of people that have been alone. I mean, and the word says that those with Yeshua in them would be doing it alone. We're not alone because we have God within us, but we're also human, and humans need people. We're not supposed to do anything alone. We need people. So, we're the widows because our husband is gone, our flesh, because let's think about it for a minute. Yeshua represents the flesh and the fleshly nature. When he left and he took that with him, basically we are supposed to lay down that fleshly nature, meaning our husband left us. Okay, it's not going to give us the spirit what it wants. The spirit is laying it down. The spirit is laying it down for the flesh. So that's within ourselves as well as within others. So, in this movie, Victoria laid everything down for Leo to choose the other. And this happens in many relationships. It happens within ourselves. And it happens in the world, but that is being rectified at the end of the grace period. And that's what I'm speaking about in this movie. When she comes back, she's coming back to claim back everything that was hers. And she, in the end, will end up with everything. And the other two, one is dead and one is in prison. And there's only two places that you can go if you choose to serve the serpent, and that's either dead or prison. So, this movie covers it all. In a nutshell, Victoria, not only does she get her money, she gets the house, she gets the restaurant, the business, and she gets Layla's baby. She gets it all. That's the double portion. But I digressed and went forward a little bit, so let's back up a little bit. There's also a name change. There's a couple of name changes, too, that I might add. And that's why I went over the story of Jacob. Let me look here. Okay, so Tori sleeps over. She makes her food, and she finally runs into Leo while she's making her food for Layla. Leo goes to check on Layla, and Tori follows with the food. Tori says that she came for her $80,000 in savings, symbolic of 8 days. She needs cash, no checks. She wants a phone, and she's taking one of their 3 cars, and she wants a job at their restaurant, the Chameleon, which, keep in mind, chameleons change colors, the coat of many colors. So they can be dark, but they can also be light. It depends on who's running it. The restaurant was her dream, like the Cinderella story. People out there choosing to steal Cinderella's dream. That's what the enemy of God does, chooses to steal from the one who has God in them because they're the only one with a dream. And a man without a dream shall surely die. So why not steal someone else's dream and get what they were supposed to get? And it has happened, but it's not going to happen forever. She says that the food was her food menus. The love and seasoning she used in the food was symbolic of spiritual food. And she told Leo in the movie at one point that she wanted him to have food with love since he grew up without love. Now, just think about that. There are those who have parents that serve the enemy, and they don't give them the bread of life. They give them something empty of love and void. So she tells him that she wanted him to have love with his food. And that just reminds me of Yeshua, who said, I am the bread of life. The man had the essence of God within him. That's what he means by me. I and the Father are one. If you choose to have the Spirit of God in you, you and the Father are one. That's what he was saying. He was a living example of how we're supposed to live. So Kayla made it look like a 5-star restaurant, but the food tasted So bad it was rated as a 1-star restaurant. I already told you that. Um, Remember that Leo likes junk food. That's other than the bread of life. Tori says that their meatloaf tastes like dirty feet, no flavor. We already talked about that. Um, and that's the absence of the coat of many colors. Tori asked for a new ID with a new name. Now she wants to be called Tori Lane Light. Her old name was Victoria Knight. So she's going from night to light. Her identity is being changed. The same is happening in the garden with Hava. At first, she's the one that's being seen as the evil one. Remember that they call evil good and good evil? Well, see, Adam chose to follow the physical rules, but he broke the spiritual. But because Hava accepted the blame, she's offering herself as a guilt offering. She's the second witness against herself, which makes her being seen as guilty. She's being seen as the dark one. But she's going through a name change because she is no longer married to this man, Leo, which represents the tribe of Judah. Look, I'm not saying the tribe of Judah is dark. It's just a representation. There's light and dark in every religion, every walk of people, and I'm going to keep saying that because this is not a jab at anybody. Each side does good and dark things, and I'm just trying to bring them out as I go from each side, all perspectives, because every perspective is necessary to see the whole picture and to get what's really going on. Let me see, where am I? Yeah, she needed an ID. She needs a new Social Security and cash for helping turn the restaurant around because she's going to be working at that restaurant and she's going to rebuild it to be what she meant for it to be. Again, this is her resurrection. This is her coming back to claim what's hers. She went through the part of her life where it's death and burial. That was the picture for the first 5. She's coming back on 6 to collect the double portion. We're collecting the double portion of wealth. You've got spiritual wealth in the garden. Hava chose the spiritual wealth. Adam chose the physical wealth. But we are told to choose the spiritual so that at the end we will have both. And if you choose the physical wealth in the beginning, you're like the prodigal son who chose the wealth before the death of the father. And so if you're the prodigal son, you might come back right up to the end and have a party thrown for you too. Because those who are God's people want everybody to get it. I don't want my enemies to suffer. I want them to get it so that they can be God's people too and not be considered the son of the serpent or son of man, human, which is equal 6 equals 666, me, myself, and I. Me 6, myself 6, and I. That's the spirit of our flesh. And when did it happen? When Hava, the Spirit of God, was taken out of flesh at night while he was sleeping. The enemy comes in at night while we're sleeping. And the word does not say that God woke him up. It says he put him to sleep. So I'm using the scriptures and I'm showing you the parallel between the movie and the scenario in the garden. Let me get back to where I was. I'm sorry, my eyes are just really, really bad. They've been bad for a couple of months. It started when I started taking oil of oregano, so I'm going to give that up for a week and see if that helps. I've been allergic to tree pollen too, so we'll see. I work outside every day, all day, so there's no way of getting around that right now. Okay, before Tori goes to the restaurant, she asks her boss if she's dressed appropriately for the restaurant. Gina, the nail tech, says she could use some makeup, and Tori says she hasn't worn makeup in years. Now, that right there is a soul-level interpretation. Makeup is a covering. We use makeup to cover our blemishes on our face. So think about the blemishes being covered. Our blemishes as far as our inclination to do wrong. That's our blemishes. She hasn't covered hers. Why? Because she's given the covering to others and she's admitting guilt. So she's not putting the covering on her. And that's what she hasn't worn it in years. 5 in this movie, because that's how long she was in the midst of the garden, being persecuted, ridiculed, and blamed and condemned and abused and used as a punching bag. So again, makeup, hair, coverings. Let's see. Okay, there's another character. His name is Mark, and he's her boss at the restaurant. He's odd, is OCD, and was one of the people who looked for Vicky when she was missing. And he has done this more than once. He wants to be a savior. He agrees to taste the new and improved recipes that Vicky recreates. And Mark revealed that Leo had a $2 million policy on Vicky's life. So, of course, she decides that she wants a fourth of that policy as well. Instead of telling that they tried to kill her and them going to prison for that, she's not going to tell on them. She just wants a fourth, 1/4, because, okay, that's 1/4 of who we are. It's our spirit is going to be either one with God or one with the serpent, but then we also have a soul. So the soul is going to choose. There's 4 within each one of us. If you have the Spirit of God in you, there's 3. And then we have the serpent, that's 4. And then we are becoming one with one or the other. I don't know if you get that or not, but I mean, Hava represented the father and the mother. The son is the flesh that does what those two are supposed to do in the commandments. Father and husband, mother and wife. Adam did neither. He's male and female too, but he's the opposite of what the actual image of God, male and female, is. The male lays down his life for the wife and the children as a father, and the wife respects the husband. And that's what Hava did. She did both of those. So her seed, the flesh, all flesh that does those two things, is Yeshua, the salvation and redemption that we have living and breathing within us. And that is the one who is doing the sacrifices in each one of us as we walk in our life. The man on the cross was doing something different. His death was for all of us once and for all in the flesh, so that the kingdom would be given back to those who follow Hava's way. In other words, the kingdom was stolen by Adam in the beginning. Now, she didn't allow it to be perceived that way because she offered herself up as a guilt offering, and she took it to be her fault. So it made him look like he was clean, made him look like he was good. But just because you look good doesn't mean you are good. Just because you look bad doesn't mean you're bad. We need to know what good and bad is supposed to look like inwardly, so that we know what the outward man really is. And again, that's a look at calling good evil and evil good. But this is all turning around. What this looks like and everything it's going to be explained over and over again until everybody understands. Layla sets up an interview for a series, Housewives, and she's told she does not have enough mess or drama in her life to be on the series. Okay, now I want you to understand that there are households that are doing good that don't have drama. Okay, there's exceptions to every rule. But in this woman's case, she wants everything to look squeaky clean. And this show is about exploiting drama and chaos. And she wants to be on this show because she wants the paycheck. And she wants to look like this ritzy, well-to-do wife of someone that's rich. but she's turned down because she doesn't have enough drama. She's hiding it all to look like she's righteous. Now, Tori goes to the doctor to find out whether she can have children or not because she still wants to be a mother. Leo goes to get her a new birth certificate, social security, and license. And she informs him that she knows about the 2 million policy and she wants 500,000 of it. 5 again, that's the number for grace. When Leo met Vicky, she was a waitress. He met her dad and loved him. He died 2 days after they were married. Now, remember, that's death and burial, 2 days. There's so many different patterns from the Bible here. I mean, it's one layer after a layer after a layer. And when you begin to look at something and see these patterns, you just cannot unsee them. They're just in your face. And I have spent my life being in awe at God's Word. I know that not many people knew that about me because it's not something that I have ever broadcasted to anybody. But it has been something that I have desired my entire life. And so I did spend a lot of time reading the New Testament growing up, and then some years looking back at the Old Testament to put them together, the Tanakh. And they do go together, but not on the Peshat or the literal level. They don't. Even in the New Testament, there is soul level interpretations, and I think right now I'm going to give you one. There was the miracle that Jesus did where the guys brought the man up that couldn't walk up through the window above and down so that he could have a healing. He was a paralytic. He was paralyzed. And in this miracle, he said, well, everybody else was going up before him and he couldn't get up there. Well, I look at that as, the elevation coming down as being humbled. But, when Jesus tells him, pick up your mat and walk, we have a saying today that deals with that same thing, and it goes back to the sin of Adam. And so if you look at this spiritually, we tell people, you made your bed, now you sleep in it, okay? Or you made the mess, now you pick it up and you carry it and you fix it, because there are so many that want someone else to fix what they did. Adam pointed a finger and demanded that Eve carry the load, and that is her punishment. In great pain and suffering, you shall bear the load. It's not just talking about physical children, but the spiritual fruit. She's the one that's going to bear the fruit because she's carrying the load for someone else who is a little bit underdeveloped in the Spirit of God section. And I'm trying to be a little funny here. Because those that are lost are just underdeveloped. Eventually they will develop, hopefully. They will be in a more developed state of mind. So when Leo met Vicky, she was a waitress. Now, right there, she's a servant. She's serving people their food. He was working for UPS, and she was fine with that. She wasn't looking for somebody that was rich. Now, Layla wanted more. He misdelivered a package to her one day, and she accepted him as long as he could still bring her extravagant gifts. And he did until somebody was asking questions. But the bottom line is he met them both at the same time, and we meet both spirits at the same time too, at birth. We have both within us. And so we're going to decide which one that we're going to be the husband to, our flesh does, and then we're going to pretty much cast away the other. Now, hopefully we're talking to the demon saying, get thee behind me. Leo tells Layla to stop spending all the money, and she reminds him she doesn't do fat or broke, and we talked about that. She calls the restaurant for food. Tori brings her food. Leo can't stop raving about Tori's food. Layla says her food tastes like heaven. again, an insinuation that the spiritual food that Victoria has for the both of them is that from heaven, God's message, God's spiritual bread of life. That's the undertone, the physical representing something spiritual. And that's what I'm trying to do with all these movies. And this movie I watched the day that I gave that video on Aladdin. And I've just been thinking about it for the last 4 months, stewing about it. Do I, don't I? Do I, don't I? Yes, I want to give this message. But it's been extremely hard for me to make myself do these things with the amount of flack that I've gotten. But I'm going to keep doing it because this is what I feel that God has called me to do. And hopefully if you have watched this long, if you're following me, then you're glad I've done it. If you haven't watched, then hopefully you don't say anything, because you can't say something about anything unless you've watched it. There's no way to critique somebody if you don't know what they've said. Now, if you want to critique me after I've said these things, well, that's fine too. We can discuss it, but it's not going to change my mind on what I'm doing. Mark eventually figures out who Tori is and tells her about Leo's $2 million policy on Layla and Leela. And Layla is, again, Leo's current wife, and Leela is the child that they named after Leo and Layla. Now, oh gosh, these names, I tell you. It says that Tori never sleeps well. Now, to me, that's an indication that she's awake. Because the Walking Dead are those that are not getting the message of God. And so, if you have the message of God in you, you wouldn't sleep that well. I don't sleep that well either. Tori brings 2 chicken pot pies and the clothes she borrowed. You know, she was after Leo through the whole movie to sell his car to give her the money that he owed her, and he didn't want to do it. And finally, towards the end of the movie, he breaks down to do that, to give her the money, because he just wants her to go away. And then he basically gets angry at her and wishes that he had killed her the first time. She calls him a monster, and he basically tells her that he did finally go to get help for his problem. Well, again, as a person that's trying to overcome the fleshly nature, that's all we can do is go get help. But we don't want to wait until we have damaged somebody so severely. But, I mean, we are who we are, each one of us. And I believe that each one of us goes through all of these stages, just maybe not in the same lifetime, which is why we need to be patient with each other. Leo also says he took out a second mortgage on the house and the car, and sold his car to pay her money that he owed her. Tori laughs, and Leo says he should have killed her the first time, and when she begged him to. She asks, why didn't he? This is important. He kind of thought if he didn't commit the ultimate sin, maybe he could be saved. So he still had it on his mind. But remember what Yeshua said. If you did it in the heart, you've already done it. You're already guilty. Tori says it would take Jesus and a therapist on speed dial for that. He says he's not much of a believer, but he is seeing a therapist and he's trying to do better. He should have got help sooner, and Tori spits on him. She says, I stomach being civil because I thought it would help me get what I deserve, even if it meant you wouldn't. I will never forgive you. Now, remember the passages in the Bible where God is angry and he's taking out his wrath for a time. And Rhea, the last part of Victoria's name, means bitter. Now, bitter to me is kind of like spiritual leprosy. And there's that test in the Tanakh, and I don't know exactly how it goes, but it's about the white hair, and if it goes all the way in deep, then you're unclean, and if it's only skin deep, you're clean. I think that's the way it goes. Anyway, bitterness for a time, there's a God within Victoria, the God that was not given mercy and grace. And so therefore that God is putting forth his wrath upon those who came against him. That's the same thing that's going to happen today through people. Now, there are people who think it's unfair, it's not godly, but hey, we are in the days of no grace. So that is what you're going to be seeing. And yes, some innocent people will get hurt in the process. We're all in a different cycle, in a different phase of that cycle, where some of us are in the death phase, some of us are in the burial phase, some of us are in the resurrection phase. So depending on which part of that cycle you're in will depend on where you're going to be when the wrath of God comes upon us. Right now, those who are God's children, who have been walking in faith and giving grace, are going to be given the favor, but it doesn't mean that some won't die, literally. And if that happens, it just means that in this lifetime, whatever they were here to do, they've done. It's just that simple. We have to trust and know that God knows what he's doing. It's hard to let go of your loved ones. I've had to let go of several, and I don't like it. One living, many died, and I didn't want to let go of any of them. And I have felt pretty alone, like extremely alone. It's not a good feeling. But I do know that I have God in me, and that's really all that's important here today. Let me see where I am. Oh, Leo says, you don't think I'm going to let you leave here with my car. Tori says, she came there broke, and she wasn't leaving the same way. Leo kicks his tire and hurts his foot. She leaves, and then she gets a phone call from Mark about the 2 policies Leo took out on Layla and Leela. And Tori goes to check on them. Now, when she goes to the house to check on them, she goes to let Layla know what happened. Now, remember, she already knows that Layla's the one that told Leo to kill her. But she shows Layla a scar on her side, and that scar is the initials of Layla and Leo carved in her side. And it is a direct picture of the piercing of Jesus on the cross, with the initials of the ones who are doing the piercing. Leo, who represents Adam, and the serpent, who Layla is playing. That's who has pierced one for their transgressions in their side. The side is where what? That's where Hava was taken from. So, really, it's a piercing of God's Spirit within. No mercy being given to the God living within that temple. And that's all of God's people. It's Jesus on the cross, but it's all of God's people. He was the head. He's the one that came and did it literally to show us how to do it. And there's been many more. I mean, Gandhi and the different people that all represent love, they are a same picture, but they didn't do it in the place of Adam as the second Adam for all. Yeshua was given the highest name, salvation and redemption, because he, the man, chose to do what the Spirit in him asked him to do. And it all falls in the fact that nobody from the tribe of Judah could be a leader again until the next one died. And that was, Yeshua was in that line. And he was the one that died, so that Judah could take back over the kingdom. And you'll have to go back and read about that separation and why the separation happened and what happened between those two and all of that. But I don't want to get into the specifics of that either. I'm more educated on the underneath layer than I am on the top layer. That doesn't mean I won't be in the future, because I'm learning every day. But for now, I want to finish up this movie. She goes back. I'm just going to finish this up without looking at my notes. So once she tells Leela, and she shows that scar to her, Layla asks her to go up and take care of the baby. Now, through this whole movie, Victoria has been there to drive Layla around, to take care of her child, to let her get rest, to give her food. And basically that's what the Spirit of God within us does for our body, it takes care of us if we are also loving ourselves. And whatever car that we are driving, we're driving around the enemy too, because we have an enemy within us that wants to come out and run things. He wants to be a backseat driver, basically. And he will be if we let him. So when Leo comes in, after she shows Layla the scar, she asks Victoria to go upstairs, and Layla actually slaps Leo and asks him how he could do that and put their initials in her side. And then she confronts him about, why didn't you kill her when I asked you to? Why is she still alive? And Victoria was telling her about the two policies, and of course Layla was telling her, well, that's normal. Normal people do that. And so Leo was telling her how they could kill her and take the money, and they were discussing it. And then, Layla ends up basically saying that I will get more money if I kill you, and she stabs him and she kills him. That she has a $3 million policy on him. Now, he's got the 2 million, she's got the 3. What does that represent? The 2 is death and burial. Leo's the atom, and he's got a policy of death and burial so that he, the flesh, can live. So the spirit, he's going to crush and keep it going so he can live. But now, Layla, the serpent, has a 3 million, because that represents live, then die, then burial, because it's the opposite of the 3 cycle. You've got a 4 cycle. And that's why in the Queen Esther story, she calls the banquet on the 3rd day, but she doesn't actually give it till the 4th, because the enemy is not conquered until burial. And that's, if the enemy on the 3rd day is death, that's when she warns and lets Haman know that he's in trouble. But then on the 4th day, that's burial. So you've got the 3 cycle and the 4 cycle on the other end, which equals 7. These are cycles that I'm talking about in the Bible. You've got to see the front and the back, both perspectives. If one is doing death, burial, and resurrection, the other one is doing live, die, then burial. Death, then burial. And then on the 5th day, resurrection. So, and I mean, that's a lot to take in, I know. So, after she stabs Leo, Victoria comes down and she says, oh, I guess you are going to get what you deserve. And she doesn't feel bad, and then she gets hit over the head and she gets tied up again. And of course, Kayla's going to kill her too. And what she doesn't know is that Victoria asked Mark that if she didn't come out by a certain time to have the police sent over. And so at the end of the movie, basically, the truth is known. Layla goes to prison. Leo dies. Adam got death in the garden. The serpent went to the belly, living by the appetites of the flesh. And if we live by the appetites of the flesh, what are we going to do? We're going to die or go to prison. And Layla's in prison, and she's, once Victoria comes with the baby, because of course she gets the house, she gets the cars, she gets the restaurant business, and she gets the baby. And she changes the baby's name from Leela, which is after Leo and Layla, to Rhea. And at the very end, which I thought was funny, Vicky says, yes, Vicky begot Tori, and Tori begot Rhea. And I mean, it's funny, because there's a lot of begots in the Bible. And so, Rhea, again, means bitter, but it also means other things as well that's not bad. And she's, Victoria, again, she's operating in that bitterness for a while, the anger of God, to get what she's owed for having been doing the right thing, for laying it down, for letting God be the one to do whatever. But again, God does his wrath through us, and the Bible says that. It's God's people that unleash the wrath, whether it be we turn our backs on those we've been there for forever. We turn them down. We don't want to hear any more nonsense. They are now going to carry their load. They're going to pick up their mat and walk That's the miracle that Yeshua did. Pick up your mat and walk. In other words, you made your bed, now you sleep in it. You made the problem, now you fix it. You carry your own load. You, and once we're carrying our own load, we're walking in love. That's basically what he's telling him. Because spiritual walking is you're either walking in love or you can't walk. If you're not walking in love, you're not able to walk. You're a paralytic. So again, that's a deeper understanding of that. Now, I'm not saying that the miracle wasn't done in the physical, but my mind tells me that perhaps it's been misunderstood, just like many things in the Tanakh. Now, I don't know one way or the other. I'm not saying yes, that's the way it is. No, I'm speculating because these are the things that I see. Just like the blind man that had the mud put in his eyes so that he could see. Mud is dirt with water in it. Well, dirt is dust. It represents Adam, the flesh. So water with the flesh so that you can see the physical, because God's people were blinded so that the lost could be brought in. What was our blindness? We were being blind to that which is in our face, all the sins in our face. We were covering. We were not holding people accountable. We were giving them their way. Some of us, not all. I mean, some of us learn the lesson of boundaries. My life has been a lesson of learning boundaries and saying no when need be. So, everybody's in a different walk at a different pace. And so, but God's people, it's like Yeshua when he said, you've given everything and done all the law, so give me everything that you have. And that's really the difference between some walking in love and others who walk in love. Some have given everything they've got. There are others who are doing the good deeds and everything they're doing is right and they're walking in love and they're covering, but they haven't given everything. Or if they give, it's not out of, they didn't lose anything by giving. And there's different things, but it's pass or fail. You cover or you don't. If you've covered, you're covered. Your sins will be made white as snow. I will see your sin no more when you stop seeing other people sin. And so that's what this whole movie is about. And at the end of the movie, after she changes the name and, she basically has her last laugh at Layla when she's visiting her in prison. And she has a camera on her and she brings the lady that Layla so desperately wanted to do the housewife show to get popularity and money, and she's got a camera on her and she's mocking her and provoking her. But when she walks out, her wrath stops. She says, that's it, I'm done. She says she wants to live her best life. She doesn't want to live Layla's life. She doesn't want to be on that show. She doesn't want to do what Layla wanted to do. She wants to live her best life. So once she collects her double portion, her physical wealth with her spiritual wealth, she is ready to live her life and leave all the other stuff to God. The wrath stops. The wrath stops as soon as God's people get what they are supposed to get, the double portion. And that double portion of manna, it's the physical wealth and the spiritual wealth. And again, we're all trying to overcome the fleshly nature. And there's some of us that go back and forth well into right before we die. Either way, as long as we finally get it under wraps. That's the whole idea of the life that we're living. I think God created us to live and have pleasurable life as well as being a testimony and living His Word. I think He created earth as a school, but He also created it for pleasure. It's boring if everything is good and great all the time. How boring is that? We as a people know this. We get bored if everything's pleasant. We want a little bit of excitement. We want to, I don't. I'm past that. But in life, you do have those stages where you want to go and do. So, this movie was a very prime, good example of the Adam and Eve and serpent story, and I'm hoping that you got something out of this video. I went over highlights. I didn't want to make it that long. I didn't want to babble. I've been nervous about doing this video for a very long time, which is why I didn't do it. My next movie cover is going to be on Wicked. And if you've made it this far, I'm going to give you a little hint. The Green Witch, remember green in one of my other videos I explained represents immortality. So when you watch that movie, be thinking about the symbolism that might be found in that movie. The broom represents the staff, God's staff. What does the broom do? It brushes away the dust. You know, it's go in, give your message, and if it doesn't receive, you know, leave and shake the dust off your feet. Well, the broom is going to move the dust out of the way. So I'm giving you little tidbits right now to get you excited about the next video. And in that video, you're going to see a lot of calling good evil and evil good. There's a lot in that movie, and I need to go back and watch it several times before I present that video. That is going to be my next one. I hope that you got something out of this, and I'm sorry for babbling so long. Please leave comments. Let me know what you think. If you're understanding this, I mean, this one was a prime breakdown of my chapter. The husband is to the flesh as the wife is to the spirit. I thought my husband's wife was dead. The flesh being that husband. The wife over here, it goes back to the garden where God said, because you listened to your wife, Adam. He's not speaking about Hava. Hava was the wife that God gave him. But Adam listened to the other wife, the Layla, the serpent. And that's why he died. She killed him. The serpent comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So I hope there's nothing else I forgot, because I almost forgot that, and that was one of the most important things that I wanted to talk about. Anyway, I love you guys. I hope that you have been blessed with this little presentation. I will get better and better, and I will do more and more videos more often. And with that being said, you guys have a blessed evening. Bye-bye.